But we start out with the Chief Warthog, a man who is a successful entrepreneur, a true community leader. J. Paul, our director, let's have a shot of Mr. Billy Prim, founder of Primo Water, Blue Rhino, and the owner of the Winston-Salem Warthogs. Let me shake your hand. Welcome you to the program.
Thank you, Jim. Glad to be here.
I'm also going to add another title to Billy's name. He's now an author. What's the name of the book you have coming out?
We have a book coming out called Rhino Tough. Stan Swafford in Greensboro wrote a book on the Blue Rhino experience, and should be in bookstores next week.
And I think everybody in the universe has used Blue Rhino products, but for anybody that just came down from the planet Mars, of course, we're talking about the little tanks that go into your gas grills, and that was this guy's idea. How have you been so successful, do you think? I mean, I know people ask you that, and it's tough when you go lecture to groups and talk to kids, but what kind of answer do you give to that?
I say that my success has been built from several things. There isn't one recipe for success, but I think everything starts out with having the right value system, surrounding yourself with the right people, and sometimes you get lucky. And
you're pretty smart at knowing what people want. With the gas tank thing, of course, with Primo Water, you knew that everybody was a market for water. Did you have these instincts that you knew what was going to work?
Well, I think I'm observant, and I try to notice trends, and I try to ask a lot of questions.
Do you remember back at all? We didn't rehearse this, but I'm just curious. Was there a trigger point to something that triggered your mind about Blue Rhino in the beginning that you said, "Hey, I ought to do that"?
The story on how I started Blue Rhino is my wife and I were traveling in France in the 80s. And I noticed at that time people were exchanging cylinders in France versus refilling them at these little refill stations like we had.
Right.
So I came back, started trying it in some of our convenience stores that we owned, and it just kept growing. And eventually a Walmart manager stopped by and said, "Billy," said, "we sell hundreds of gas grills every week, but have nowhere to send our customers to buy gas.
What a brilliant
think
idea.
about it."
What a brilliant idea. They're everywhere. All right. Now, let's talk about the Warthogs a little bit. Winston-Salem Warthogs, and Billy, as I told you, back in 1971, 72, I was the ballpark announcer at Ernie Shore Field. And that impressed you, didn't it?
Hey, great resume.
That's right. That I lived that long to tell about it. No, I had a lot of fun then. And baseball is fun. And you're in an industry, you're a great businessman, but you also think it's fun. And now you've got this new stadium you want to build, which I think is great because you're going to have developments around it. It's going to be great. What all is going to be included?
Well, we've got a vision for a new stadium, be directly on Business 40, where you have easy access to downtown and to on and off Business 40. But we want to surround it with a mixed-use development where people can live, work, and be entertained in the same locale. And we think it's a great form of urban living. I think it's right for Winston-Salem, and we're excited about it.
And everybody wins, too. I mean, even beyond that, I think Wake Forest has a deal in place to take over Ernie Shore Field, right?
That's correct.
So
Wake Forest is purchasing Ernie Shore Field from the city.
I think in the future, I'm a big baseball fan. Hopefully, as Winston-Salem State University moves into Division I baseball, it'd be great to be able to let them have tournaments at the new field, right?
That's part of the plan.
I think that's just super. And are you a baseball fan, or you just did it as a businessman?
Oh, no. I'm a huge sports fan and a big baseball fan.
Yeah. Well, I want a cap sometime. Can you bring me a cap?
We can get you one.
Let me go backwards now. We've covered some of the high spots. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Yadkin County.
Not far from here.
Not far from Winston-Salem.
When you were a little boy, who were your role models and mentors, influences?
Well, when I was small, my father and grandfather ran a small farm supply business, and they really gave me a lot of the basis that set my value system.
Yeah, and did you play baseball when you were a little boy growing up?
Always, yeah.
So that gave you sort of that's just great. Now let's talk a little bit about. I want to go back to the stadium from one standpoint. I skipped over something that you talked about. It's going to have developments. People can live there. Have you estimated what kind of impact you're going to have on our economy? Because people always want to know. Let's be honest. The city and county are going to fund some of this project. And it looks like all that's pretty much in place. I think you have a few little dotted I's and crossed T's to work out, but there's going to be some taxpayer funding to that. And people always want to know the who, what's, and where's of it. How much is that really going to benefit us? Let's say to people who are watching that don't like baseball. Mm-hmm. How is it going to benefit the economy?
Well, let me first of all say that it is a collaborative effort between the city and the county and us. But I want to make sure that people understand there are no tax dollars that are currently being paid going into this stadium. That's not what we're saying. We estimate that we're going to create around $189 million tax base here.
Gosh.
Which throws off a considerable amount of taxes every year. And what we're saying is part of the new tax base, the additional tax base that's created, part of those taxes, we want it to pay off the stadium. What it is a very creative way for the city and county to get a new stadium without having to fund anything.
Final thing, the book deal, your book we talked about, you have a book signing coming up when and where?
I think we got one at Barnes & Noble in Winston-Salem next Sunday afternoon. I would check that for sure with Barnes & Noble.
Well, I want to thank Billy Prim for coming, also the Center for Creative Leadership for making this segment possible. You know, leadership comes in many forms, and we just saw one form of it sitting right next to me, to my right. Billy Prim, will you come back sometime?
I'd be glad to.
And can I announce one of the last games at the old stadium?
We'll get you there.
He's going to get me a cap.
Guest speaker.
Guest speaker.